Okay guys, so I was going to pick up a bit here before I started the video, make things look a little better, but I figured it was more educational and useful to see things exactly in the state they're in when I got here. So I am on North 37th Street, just off the Sorensen Parkway. I'm sure the traffic is probably going to be a sound issue for us in the video. What we're doing in this project with Omaha Permaculture is capturing stormwater runoff that's coming down this street, bringing it through a curb cut, just like we talked about in class, into a 4-bay that I showed a picture of the other day. From there, there's kind of a weir cutout that allows the water into the rest of the landscape. You can see we've got plenty of garbage, weeds. The 4-bay itself is pretty full. It's normally about 24 to 30 inches deep, if memory serves. Definitely challenges, right? These things don't maintain themselves. We do have a fantastic ground cover of 8 different species of sedges. Sedges are these plants here. There are some that are sort of weedy and problematic in some people's yards, but a lot of native species that can be identified by this cross-section of the leaf in sort of a V shape. But they're pretty good at cleaning water and keeping the soil stable so it's not eroded, and keeping the weed pressure to a minimum. So this location is not only using sedges effectively, but also becoming a future seed collecting source for a number of different types of sedges that we can sort of observe the performance of. So Steve Rohde helped design and put together a landscape design that I probably got up on the screen for you already. And the intent was to basically build a rain garden with a single swale that runs through down the middle, and then cells off of the side of that will actually have some retention, not just slowing down water and detention, but arresting some of it. So in the middle here, it's a little bit lower than the grade of the swale. So as the water moves through the swale, then it's able to fill these smaller individual spaces. Now, aside from the debris and the weeds that are still, popping up, we haven't solved that problem. We're just kind of working to fill the space with plants as quickly as possible. The other challenge I've had is a little bit of silting in this middle area. I'm going to step back a bit. So right here we have a bunch of sedges that filled in really well, really quickly, and as they're supposed to, stops soil from moving any further down the swale. So this created a spot where water sat and pooled and didn't continue further down into the swale with those lighter flow events, you know, under a 1/4 inch or so. So if there's not a lot of water that actually falls from the sky and comes in here, then it doesn't have the pressure it needs to make its way all the way through. So what we're exploring in this particular project is not only how to take stormwater offline and use the landscape to handle some of that stormwater. At Omaha Permaculture, we believe that there are a lot of properties that are vacant or underutilized all over the city that could be part of the green infrastructure that takes stormwater and captures it and minimizes how much is flowing into actual sewer pipes. So we want to make a landscape like that, and then we're also incorporating, as Steve mentioned in an earlier lecture on this project, we're adding woody plants to it. So we've got currants in the background, we've got aronia right here, chokecherry, black cherry, probably more for the birds in that case. Further up we have some pawpaws, and here's some more currant. So we're trying to stack benefits of cleaning stormwater runoff, creating a attractive landscape, and potentially one that can be safely used to get a snack. So we will collect fruit from these plants that have access to the polluted stormwater that runs into the landscape, and find out whether it in fact has any of those pollutants present. So this is the final cell at the very bottom. It does have kind of a rock spillway that would allow a really massive rain event to bring water all the way further to the east, where you see that mound of brown foliage. There's an inlet back into the storm system. So yeah, so challenges, obviously vandalism hasn't really been bad in this case. We haven't drawn a lot of attention to the site and are hoping to just sort of like experiment for a little while. The city mows this adjacent grass area, so the challenge becomes, do we want to push the mulch all the way up to the edge of where our plantings are, or have a little bit of space here that we claim as ours and then have, you know, weed pressure to take care of? Or do we just sort of allow the city mowed grass to come in closer and then we're just managing? So the site of this stump grinding had a lot of annual weeds really go nuts, and so these are some of the things that have to be fought just as much as turf grass that wants to slowly encroach on those vacuums that we create that's just mulch and no plants. Whenever there's no plants growing somewhere, plants will decide that they're going to grow there instead. So if we can be aggressive and fill the landscape, then there aren't as many places for plants that we don't want growing in here to get a foothold. So you can see how the different sedge species are performing better or worse. How they look, having not been deadheaded or anything since last winter, could be a factor. But plants that will tolerate being dry most of the time and then really, really wet every once in a while. So I'm sure I'm going long here, guys, so thanks for joining me, and come visit anytime.